There is one belief about money that most people carry without ever examining it, and it is the single biggest reason their financial situation stays stuck, regardless of how much their income increases. It is not laziness. It is not lack of information. It is a deeply wired assumption about scarcity that shapes every financial decision you make without you realizing it is happening. Here is exactly what that belief is, why it formed, and a specific 7-day process for rewiring it at the level where it actually lives, not through positive thinking, but through structured daily evidence. Welcome to Daily Money Mindset. The belief we are talking about is scarcity thinking, but not the version you have probably heard described. Most content frames scarcity mindset as simply believing you do not have enough, which sounds obvious and easy to dismiss. The more accurate description is this: scarcity thinking is an automatic, below-conscious assumption that money is fundamentally limited, and that any gain for you means less for someone else, or that your current financial state is more or less permanent regardless of what you do. This belief operates like background software. It is not something you consciously think. It is something your nervous system assumes by default, and it shapes your behavior accordingly. Where does it come from? For most people, it comes directly from the financial environment they grew up in. If money in your household was chronically tight, if financial stress was a regular presence, or if you absorbed messages that wealth was for other kinds of people or required luck you were unlikely to have, your nervous system wired those observations into a working assumption about how money works. That assumption served a purpose then. It prepared you for a reality where resources genuinely were scarce. The problem is that nervous system wiring does not automatically update when your external circumstances change. You can have a stable income, a growing savings account, and a completely different life than you grew up in, and still be making decisions from a scarcity operating system that is years or decades out of date. The way scarcity thinking shows up in real financial behavior is specific and worth recognizing. It shows up as avoiding checking your bank balance because the anxiety of seeing the number feels worse than not knowing. It shows up as spending a windfall immediately rather than pausing because some part of you does not quite believe the money is real or stable. It shows up as underselling yourself in salary negotiations because asking for more feels presumptuous or risky. It shows up as difficulty investing because putting money somewhere you cannot immediately access feels like losing it. None of these behaviors are logical responses to your actual financial situation. They are logical responses to the scarcity assumption running underneath. The 7-day rewiring process we are covering today is not positive affirmations, which have limited effect on deeply wired beliefs because they operate at the conscious level while the belief operates below it. This process works at the evidence level, which is where durable belief change actually happens. The core principle is that your nervous system updates its assumptions based on repeated evidence over time, and the exercise is designed to systematically generate and record that evidence every day for 7 days. Day 1 is a net worth snapshot, nothing more than writing down what you own versus what you owe and calculating the difference. For many people, this is the first time they have ever done this honestly, and the number, whatever it is almost always either better than the scarcity assumption predicted, or at minimum, a clear and factual starting point rather than a vague anxiety. The act of writing it down begins shifting the relationship from avoidance to engagement, which is the first movement away from scarcity thinking. Day 2 is a financial wins inventory. Write down every positive financial decision or outcome from the last 12 months, no matter how small. An automatic transfer that happened, a bill you negotiated, a subscription you canceled, a month where you spent less than you earned. The scarcity brain selectively remembers financial mistakes and anxieties while filtering out evidence of competence. This exercise forces the filter to work in the other direction for 1 day. Day 3 is an abundance evidence scan. For one day, deliberately notice every piece of evidence that money flows, that opportunities exist, and that financial progress is possible for people in circumstances similar to yours. This is not about ignoring real economic difficulty. It is about correcting a specific cognitive bias where the scarcity brain filters for confirming evidence and ignores disconfirming evidence. You are not pretending the evidence is different than it is. You are making sure you are actually seeing all of it rather than just the portion that confirms the existing assumption. Day 4 is a scarcity trigger journal. For this single day, write down every moment where you notice the scarcity assumption activating, the physical tightening when you check your balance, the hesitation before a financial decision, the automatic, "I cannot afford this," thought before you have actually checked whether you can. You are not trying to fix these in real time. You are simply making them visible, because scarcity thinking derives most of its power from operating undetected. Naming the pattern disrupts the automation. Day 5 is a future financial self-visualization, specific and written down, not vague. Describe where you are financially in 3 years if things go well but not perfectly. What does your savings balance look like? What has changed about how you make financial decisions? What no longer causes the anxiety it causes now? Write at least a paragraph in the present tense as if it is already the case. Neuroscience research on goal visualization consistently shows that written, specific, present tense descriptions of a desired future state activate similar neural pathways to actual memory, which begins building the experiential familiarity that makes the future feel achievable rather than abstract. Day 6 is a money conversation. Have one honest, non-anxious conversation about finances with someone you trust. Not to seek advice or solve a problem, but simply to practice treating money as a normal subject rather than a charged one. Scarcity thinking is reinforced by financial silence and secrecy. The normalization of money as a topic is itself a step away from the shame and avoidance that scarcity thinking runs on. Day 7 is a small, intentional financial action, something that represents your abundance assumption rather than your scarcity one. This might be opening an investment account, setting up an automatic transfer, or finally making the call to negotiate a bill. The action matters less than the fact that you are doing something future-oriented and growth-oriented rather than something protective and scarcity-driven. The reason this 7-day process works when generic mindset advice does not is that it operates through behavior and evidence rather than through attempted belief replacement. You are not trying to convince yourself of something new. You are generating actual experience that your nervous system can use to update its working assumptions. Done consistently, this kind of structured evidence accumulation is what actually shifts the operating belief. Not immediately, not permanently after 7 days alone, but as a starting point for a different relationship with money that can be built on. The bigger picture here is that your financial outcomes are downstream of your financial behavior, and your financial behavior is downstream of your operating beliefs about money. Changing the numbers without changing the belief that generates the behavior is how people end up making more money but feeling just as financially insecure as before. The belief is where the work starts. If this gave you a new way to understand what is actually driving your financial patterns, hit the like button and subscribe to Daily Money Mindset for 3 videos every week on the mindset and strategy of building real wealth. Drop a comment below with the word Rewire if you are committing to the 7-day process. We want to know how it goes. A free journaling template for all 7 days is linked in the description below.